Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're completely cutting through the noise and breaking down a series of really complex news stories directly from the sources. We're going to track the facts from sweeping geopolitical shifts all the way down to the hyper-local events that actually impact your daily life. Let's get into it. Here is what's on the agenda for today. We're starting with Trump's GOP primary power. Then we'll move into Israel, Iran, and the peace talks, check in on the Golden Gate protest trial, cover the Penn Station stabbing attack, and finally wrap things up with some extreme weather alerts hitting the Midwest. All right, starting with Section 1, Trump's GOP primary power and why it's becoming a bit of a double-edged sword. If you've been following the Republican primaries, you know Donald Trump's endorsements are literally reshaping the landscape, even unseating long-standing incumbents like Thomas Massie and John Cornyn. And the dynamic at play here is just fascinating. On one hand, his backing clears the field almost instantly. Just look at Texas, where Ken Paxton recently secured 63% of the vote. But analysts are warning that this is a serious double-edged sword. While it's a massive asset in the primaries where the conservative base dominates, it could actually become a major liability in the general midterms. Why? Because it risks alienating moderates and absolutely motivating anti-Trump independents to show up at the polls. To put this into perspective, polling starkly highlights this exact divide. According to Reuters and Ipsos, nearly 80% of Republican voters approve of Trump and believe he's doing a good job. That is a massive majority. Yet, his overall approval rating with the broader American public has plunged to just 35%. So he has an iron grip on his base, for sure, but that same grip practically guarantees a highly polarized environment heading into a general election. Moving on to Section 2, escalation and diplomacy between Israel and Iran. Now, let's zoom out to global conflicts, because we are seeing an incredibly volatile situation unfold in the Middle East. This timeline shows a rapid succession of strikes happening almost simultaneously with peace efforts. It's a lot to take in. After a U.S. truce plan for Lebanon was announced on April 8th, things just escalated again. On Sunday, Israel launched strikes in the Beirut area. Later that exact same day, Iran immediately retaliated by firing 11 ballistic missiles at Israeli targets. Donald Trump reportedly reprimanded Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu over this, but by Monday, Israel had already carried out new strikes on an Iranian petrochemical plant. And this really pulls back the curtain on the diplomatic friction happening behind the scenes. Donald Trump, who was pushing to secure a broader peace deal with Tehran, bluntly stated about Netanyahu, "I call the shots. I call all the shots. He doesn't call the shots." It's a stark reminder that international agreements often hinge on highly personal, really forceful power dynamics. Bringing it back stateside for Section 3, the Golden Gate protest trial. Is it civil disobedience or a felony? So, think back to April 15th. A pro-Palestinian demonstration blocked all the southbound lanes of the Golden Gate Bridge, trapping commuters in a massive traffic jam for over 4 hours. And that brings us to this really striking question at the center of a San Francisco trial right now. These 7 protesters aren't just facing your standard misdemeanors, they are facing severe felony conspiracy and false imprisonment charges. If convicted, they could literally face up to 15 years in prison. The jury is weighing 2 vastly different realities here. The prosecution's case is pretty straightforward. They argue the protesters created a massive public danger, falsely imprisoned thousands of commuters, and that a political cause simply does not excuse breaking the law. The defense, however, they're arguing a state of necessity. They claim the blockade was an urgent, nonviolent act of civil disobedience required to prevent greater crimes against humanity. Turning to Section 4, the random violence of the Penn Station stabbing attack. This is a local crisis that serves as a really stark reminder of the unpredictability of public safety. Sunday evening, right in the heart of New York's busy Penn Station, an entirely unprovoked attack left 6 people injured. 5 were stabbed. The attacker was targeting people completely at random before Amtrak police managed to tackle and apprehend him. The 51-year-old suspect, Hector De Leon, is believed to be emotionally disturbed and homeless, with 1 prior drug arrest on his record. It's the kind of random incident that understandably leaves daily commuters incredibly on edge. Finally, let's look at Section 5, Midwest extreme weather alerts regarding floods and heat. Drilling all the way down to urgent alerts that might affect your daily routine right now. Nature really dictates our micro-realities, doesn't it? The Midwest is currently bracing for severe weather tonight through Tuesday. The National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, along with the National Weather Service, have issued these really dangerous dual threat warnings, requiring immediate attention from absolutely anyone in the affected areas. Notice exactly where these threats overlap. A heat advisory, which stretches from noon to 10 p.m. on Tuesday, intersects directly with a flash flood watch. And because the soils out there are already completely saturated from previous storms, any new thunderstorms developing ahead of a cold front could bring rainfall rates of up to 2 inches per hour. That is a ton of water. It means local streams and tributaries could flash flood with almost zero lead time. So, to wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with this. From a geopolitical missile strike halfway across the world, to a protest blocking your morning commute, or a sudden flood warning right in your county, news is never just an isolated event. It is an interconnected web. The real question isn't just what is happening in the world, but how long it takes for a macro event to disrupt your micro reality. Thank you so much for joining me to break down the facts, and I'll catch you in the next explainer.